Hi everyone, my name's Alex and I'm a medical student at the University of East Anglia, and welcome back to the next video in this series on productivity, and this video is about efficiency. So I'm going to start off by explaining sort of a little model that you can use to categorise your study methods and work out what's best. Then I'm going to talk about the three main ways I study. So firstly, let's kick off with this model. So if you're a medical student watching this, you might be aware of Qualys. So a QALY is a quality adjusted life year, and this has two components. So first thing is the quality of life, and this is measured on a scale from 0, which is being dead, and 1, which is full health. And this whole model is used in economic evaluations to work out whether a treatment is worth it. So it's sort of a cost and benefit. So one QALY is 1 year in perfect health, and this is used in economic evaluations to compare different treatments in terms of their price and effectiveness. So for example, one treatment might give someone 1 QALY and one treatment might give someone half a QALY, and you can compare even if they're different, completely different treatments. So one might be for a cancer and one might be for something orthopedic. So completely different, used for comparison. So that's roughly what they are. So let's take someone in perfect health. So they've got nothing wrong with them. So they have a quality of life score of 1. For a year, they would have 1 QALY, so 1 year in perfect health. But let's take someone else who, for example, let's say they've got lung disease and their quality of life score is only half, so 0.5. If they live for 1 year, in that year they will have 0.5 QALYs. So you can see that in order to have 1 QALY, the person with lung disease needs to live for 2 years, and the person without lung disease in perfect health only needs to live for 1 year. And we can use this sort of model and compare it to study methods. So rather than quality of life, we talk about the quality of study, and rather than years, we can talk about hours. So let's do a similar sort of thing with quality of study. So 0 is not studying at all, and 1 is best quality study you can think of. You remember everything, understand everything, and on this scale we can put a number of other different things. So I'd say that at number 1 is, so the best quality thing you can do is answering questions and visualizing and being able to visualize the answer as well. So the perfect study method would be a combination of answering questions, recording them over a long period of time, so dredging them out of your brain, and being able to visualise what the answer is at the same time. So that would be perfect. Then you've got other things further down the pecking order, like highlighting. Let's say, for example, highlighting has got a quality score of 0.5, and just reading notes and stuff, let's say that has a quality score, a quality of study of 0.1. So we can see, in terms of quality of study, so if we do 1 hour of study of the most efficient, good quality work, we'll have a score of 1. If we do 1 hour of work, but it's, say, highlighting, so it's not a very efficient way of learning, we only have a score of a half. So again, you can see that you need to spend double the amount of time highlighting to get a similar sort of benefit as you do from answering questions, repetition, and visualization. So really what we want to be doing when we're studying, we want to be spending the majority of our study time closer to that 1. I'm now going to talk about how I do this and what I think is a really good way of studying. So we'll go right from the start, from before the initial delivery of teaching, so we're talking about lectures in this case, right to the end, and we'll talk about different methods. So before the teaching is delivered, I go through PowerPoints, so the PowerPoint which is usually uploaded before the lecture, and I will make a brief sort of list of subheadings of what comes up. So just a general understanding or general overview of the topics and what the lecture is likely to contain. So this allows me to sort of categorise the information which will follow in the lecture. So this is usually what will follow the next day. And it helps me visualise where the information that I'm going to learn is going to sort of hang and how it relates to everything else. The second step is you use the toggle feature in Notion. So in the lecture, you write questions based on the slides and what the lecturer is saying. You write questions which cover everything that could come up. So you start off with general things, so explain this, generally just explain it, and then you get progressively more and more specific, more and more detailed. This is really beneficial as well because you'll never be able to get all that information down in the lecture, and anyway, what's the point, because it'll all be on the lecture slides anyway, or someone else will have made the notes for you on the internet. Step 3 is what I think is the most important step. So step 3 is when you get home or after the lecture, you need to recall as much of the lecture content as you can. Just answer as many of the general questions. So get yourself a big piece of paper or use an iPad or something, and try and recall as much of the information from the lecture as you can underneath those general questions that you've written for yourself. You can make mind maps. You can just scribble it down on paper, doesn't matter, just get as much of it as you can down. And once you've done that, you need to go through and use lecture slides, Google, YouTube, textbooks, whatever, to fill out all the rest of the answers to the questions once you've done as much as you can. This recall really helps to, rather than just having something in your short-term memory, it's the first step of uploading something into your long-term memory. The third step is to repeat the questions. So in this first round of recall, the main thing is that you understand all of those concepts, all those principles, because if you don't understand it almost as soon as it's been delivered, it's very unlikely that you'll be able to understand it and recall it further down the line. It's really important to make sure you can recall each question, you can answer each question without notes, without referring to any resource before you move on to the next question. Because as we said, the questions under each subheading get progressively more difficult. So there's no point in moving on to a more difficult one if you can't do the main understanding and general principles. Stage in this is to just repeat the ones you get wrong, and each time you do it, add more and more detail with each repetition. This will really help you you'll be able to visualize in your head under the subheadings. So you'll visualize, okay, the answer to this general question comes first, I remember the answer to that, the second question, third question, it gets more and more specific, so you'll be able to visualize where each answer lies on your bank of questions. The act of recalling them will solidify them in your long-term memory. So my second way of studying is a little bit unorthodox. I like to call it thought study, and you don't need to write anything down. You don't need to sit at a desk. It involves no actual real study in terms of like what you would normally consider to be studying. Basically, when you're going about your daily life, so between lectures or on your way to the shops or at the gym, in the swimming pool or whatever, you're not really doing much, you're just sort of passively walking from one place to another or just going about the physical motions. So try and recall as much of one topic, as many of the questions from a lecture as you can, and recall the answers to them. You can go through, it works really well with diseases, so you can think, okay, how does it present? What investigations are we going to do? Physical examinations are we going to do? Recall as much of it as you can. You don't need to write anything down unless you can't remember something. If you can't remember something, jot it down on a scrap of paper or somewhere on your phone or on reminders. Ask Siri to remind you. And then when you get back to a desk or somewhere where you can study, you know that you need to look through those questions again. It really helps you to sort of build the links between different areas of understanding, so you'll find your brain sort of flowing between different lectures, and it's a good exercise in making you think. And when you think really hard, you understand things better and you'll remember it better. The last way I study is in groups. So I'll usually find some clinical cases off the internet or out of a book, and at the moment it'll be on Zoom, go through with friends, go through the cases, answer the accompanying questions, just talk it through. And this is really good for a number of reasons. So if you don't know something, oftentimes you don't know that you don't know it. And if someone you're studying with, one of your friends, picks up on something and you think, oh, I didn't know that, that can then direct your own learning, and you know where you need to focus more of your time, so you can go back and exercise the other two study methods. So using Notion and answering the questions, or just using thought study. It's also a much more fun way of studying as well. It's much more sociable, and you can go for a couple of drinks afterwards or whatever. So yeah, that's how I study. That's what I think is to be the most efficient ways of studying. Remember, if something's efficient, you can spend less time doing it for more overall output. And if you spend less time doing it, you can get more stuff in. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or anything you want to say, drop a comment down below, give us a like, and yeah, see you in the next video.